All right, we're back with Billy Severns, University of Oklahoma, all-star paperboy, Milwaukee Brewer professional baseball player, and obviously a great life all around. But we're still talking about University of Oklahoma. Certainly, it's interesting you said Tulsa was the power at that time, because when I think of powerhouses, I think about Coach Holliday's teams at Oklahoma State, the Oklahoma teams in the 80s and 90s. So you kind of were playing there in the mid-70s. One thing I did notice, though, you had a really, really good team at University of Oklahoma with Bob Shirley, and tell me if these guys played with you as well. Mickey Hatcher, Keith Drumright, were they all there at Oklahoma at the same time you were?
Right.
Mickey Lashley, I believe.
Right.
Tell me a little bit about those guys and what made them so special. Drumright played the big leagues with the Oakland A's. Bob Shirley had a long career, San Diego, New York. Mickey Hatcher is a major league hitting coach, longtime Minnesota Twin, Los Angeles Dodger. Mickey Lashley got hurt, but he was a pretty big pitching prospect with the Dodgers. Tell me about those guys and maybe anybody that I missed that you think had those qualities that would make you a big leaguer.
Well, they all. My freshman year, the first year ever, the spring of '72 was the first year I played, and Coach Seymour had never won a Big 8 title at Oklahoma. And we promised him that we would win him one. So we won that year. And I started as a freshman. And there were quite a few guys. Jackson Todd,
Of course.
George Frazier. Frazier came with Mike Umfleet, Keith Drumright. And they kind of started this deal. But my freshman year, we were just a bunch. We had some great seniors that did not get drafted, but they had really put in the hard work, and we won the Big 8. And you had to win the Big 8 to go to the regionals. Okay, if you didn't win the Big 8, if you weren't the first place team, you were out of the playoffs. And one of the things that I notice now is that you can come in 6th or 7th in the conference and still go to the playoffs. I really don't pay that much attention to it because I got so much else to do with all the grandkids and stuff. It's a lot. The
regional's a lot like how the basketball's set up now. So,
So you had to win the Big 8. So we won the Big 8, and we go to the regionals, and we had to play Tulsa, and probably Texas A&M, or maybe whoever else had won a regional. There were 4 teams in the regional.
Please tell me you played Tulsa.
We played Tulsa.
Tell me about that game.
Well, how about all 8 of them?
Yes.
We wound up playing Tulsa, I think, 8 times.
So the school that you wanted to play for, that didn't want you, you play them 8 times.
We played them a lot in the regionals. The next 4 years, the bottom line is, all 4 years I played there, we went to the College World Series.
Yes.
And all 4 years we had to win the regionals. And all 4 years we had to win the conference. So we beat Tulsa every year.
Okay, I know you're a very humble man, but inside there had to be a little bit of a swagger in that heart of yours when you beat Tulsa and you saw the coach after the game.
I didn't. All I wanted to do was play baseball.
Right.
I really didn't care. The Tulsa coach, this Gene Shell, offered me a full scholarship after he heard I had signed with Oklahoma. So I said, well, no, I already have one. So anyway, I think
Crazy how that happens.
And I don't even remember. I couldn't even recount or tell you the story, but he was a legend.
Yeah.
And he was the man. And so we get to the regionals, and there were 3 of us, me and a guy named Jackson Todd, who was a very good pitcher with the Mets, and another guy named Kenny King. And the 3 of us from Tulsa, for some reason, had career days against Tulsa. So we played very well against them. Great. And it was just, but we went to the College World Series. That was the goal. The goal was the College World Series. It wasn't beating Tulsa, it was winning a national title. So that was my freshman year. My sophomore year, the guys like George Frazier, Mike Umfleet, Kelly Snyder, Jackie Parrish, there was a whole bunch of guys that came in.
Parrish, Umfleet, Snyder, all were minor league. Umfleet was with the Cubs, Snyder, Dodgers, and who's the other one you said?
Well, Joe Simpson.
Joe Simpson, of course.
Joe Simpson played center field for us the first 2 years, and I played left.
Jackie Parrish was a catcher?
Jackie Parrish was a catcher.
Okay, right.
Joe Simpson was our leader, really, in the outfield.
Charismatic outfield.
Very
now
charismatic.
Broadcaster for the Braves.
Yes, he's a dear friend of mine. And I mean, he was so good, all I had to do was cover from me over to the line. He was 6'3", could run like the wind, played with the Dodgers and the Mariners. Yep. And we actually, I think in the 70s, we averaged 5 signings a year pro.
Wow.
In the 70s. So that first win was kind of getting over the hump to where we won the Big 8 and went to the World Series. But we had to figure out how to beat the Arizona States and the Southern Cals and those kind of guys. Right. The next year, we made some progress. We won the Big 8. We beat Tulsa in the regionals. We get to the College World Series. And we always would get beat by Texas. We got beat 4 times, 1-0 in the College World Series. And we usually had 7 left-hand hitters. We got beat by 4 left-hand pitchers. Rich Wortham, John Poloni, Eddie Bain, and somebody else. We got beat by Dave Winfield 1-0. So we were, we were so close. Southern Cal won the World Series every year we were there. Texas was really, really good. We were really good. The year we had Bob Shirley and those guys really starting to cook. Stan Meek is now the vice president of the Marlins pitching. We had good guys. Our problem usually was back then the World Series was only like a 3 or 4 day event. Right. And we didn't have the pitching. We had to come back with our starter the next day. Our number 1, if we lost, we had to come back with 1 or 2, and that's about all. I'm not going to say it's not all we had because we had tremendous depth. And in order to beat Tulsa and those guys, we had to call on guys that had never really been our bigger guys, and they always came through. I mean, really, there's some tremendous stories about guys that didn't play that came up on that Sandlot day to pitch 6 innings against Tulsa.
Well, I think one thing that, another message from that is, and I think you would agree with me, is a kid that gets cut from baseball to ends up playing. I think the one thing, if you talk to any great ball player, they'll always say, or any great coach, the guy that has all the talent in the world, but's got a dying work ethic or believes he's made it when he hasn't, I see that all the time. That's so hard for me as a talent evaluator to watch a kid that's so talented and he's handed everything early and he just doesn't make it. But the guy like you, the guy like Matt Blackham from Olathe Northwest, who's in the Mets organization at Big League Camp right now, that is not the guy anybody thinks of, and they come through and keep riding and passing everybody. Right. And to watch a guy that's a late round draft pick get to minor league camp their first year and be the guy that's just supposed to be there for the defense behind the first round pick. Right. To see that guy make it past the first round pick, and it happens a lot more than people think. That's pretty special. So you had guys on that team at OU that maybe you weren't counting on, in that one moment. They became a key member of your team in just that one moment. Yeah, and I remember walking out my freshman year, walking out into left field because Joe Simpson was in center. Right. Nobody's going there, and I was an all-state center fielder. I thought I could do that, but I wasn't going to move Joe, and knew that. So I go over to left field, and there's 7 left fielders, and most of them were either all-state or from somewhere. Right. They were the man somewhere. Yeah, there was a guy somewhere. Yeah. So you always knew, and one of my best friends, a guy named Terry Jolly, who was a linebacker, he built the program with Gene Stevenson at Wichita State. I mean, there were no shabby ball players out in the field, and you had to put it out there, and you had to be, there wasn't any room for making many mistakes. Yeah. So, I mean, it wasn't just that there was that guy that finally got a shot. They were all good. And, you had to be pretty sharp every day. So from OU, I noticed you got drafted. There used to be a January draft as well. You got drafted more than once. Why didn't you sign, and tell me a little bit about that process. Why didn't you sign the first time out when you were drafted? Well, I always grew up wanting to be Mickey Mantle. Blonde hair, blue-eyed, from Oklahoma, left-handed hitter anyway. And I was drafted my junior year by the New York Yankees, which, oh my gosh, I think it was the 8th or 10th round. And so I thought, but we had gone to the College World Series for the 3rd time and not won it. And I wanted to win it. And I didn't want to go to college and not have a degree. My mom, everybody, it was just, I wanted my college degree. Right. I wanted college that. Paid for. Yeah. Back then you would have had to pay for your degree. Now, obviously if you're drafted, MLB pays for your continuing education. And a lot, back then that wasn't going to happen. Right. And they offered me, I don't know, just
in the 70s, you know, maybe 15 grand or something like that. And it was nothing. So, but I really wanted to win the College World Series, and I was so ticked that we had lost. We got beat by Miami, and in some games that we had won, and then getting beat 1-0, and Southern Cal and all those guys, and you just want to win because you're playing for Oklahoma and you're playing for that team, you know, things. So
where was most of the guys on the OU at that time? Were they most of them Oklahoma kids?
oh yeah. The first a wave of guys that came from anywhere else was Springfield, Missouri.
Keith
when
Drumright.
Drumright and those
Yeah,
guys
yeah,
came
home
through.
fleet, right.
Yeah. So that was where they were from. And then I was drafted I didn't go, and I went back for my senior year. And then in the draft in January, I was drafted by the San Francisco Giants.
Okay.
And interestingly enough, my grandfather was a San Francisco Giants, you know, part-time scout or something like that. I never knew him, never met him.
Okay.
But he and I are the only two lefties. So I thought that was cool. But anyway, obviously, if I'm not going to sign with the Yankees, I'm not signing with the Giants in January when the season's right there.
Right.
So we went ahead and we played in the World Series again. We beat Tulsa again to go to the World Series. And we should have won it, but we never did win it. We got beat. We won a few games. We beat Eastern Michigan and the Bobby Welches and those guys that were all, I mean, you know, it was a pretty cool deal, but
Omaha's, that experience is.
I'm convinced that if we would have been able to stretch it out a little bit and give our starters just a couple days
So
rest,
in today's format,
we would have
different
done
story.
it. Today's,
Yeah.
we might have.
And obviously for the health of arms back then, having to throw guys that much would not have been.
Bob Shirley could throw 300 pitches, but that just wasn't going to happen.
Right.
You know.